Hi, I'm Malavika Suresh. I was named by my father. He doesn't know why he named me that. I'm 19. I've lived in Dubai my entire life, but I'm Indian. Kinda. I have a nose that makes a weird noise when I itch it. I believe in aliens. I like cats. I'm very indecisive. I'm a writer, almost. I'm a performer. I. It's a looming question, isn't it? The one about identity? Funny thing is, everything that I just told you about myself probably creates an image of who I am for you, but the thing is, I could be someone completely different. We've all wondered about it at some point in our lives, what it means to be us. For me, that journey began with my parents. I was born to Indian parents who lived in India their entire lives up until the 1990s when they moved to Dubai. A few years down the line, they were blessed with me. What this meant was that everybody around me told me that I was Indian, told me that I belonged to this far-off land that I knew little about. Living in Dubai meant that whenever somebody asked me where I was from, I told them that I was Indian, even though I could count on my fingers the number of times I've actually been there. Partly, in order to deal with this identity crisis and confusion, I moved to India for university. Ironically, when I was there, whenever somebody asked me where I was from, I had to tell them that I was from Dubai. Because to claim to be Indian was to claim to know exactly what it was like to be them, to be a complete part of their culture, but I could not stake that claim because I don't know what it's like. I've spent my whole life trying to cross these two borders, but the problem is, I don't know where the right place to stop is. Don't get me wrong. There is no place in the world that I would rather have been brought up in than in Dubai, and there is no culture that I would rather belong to than the rich one of India. I am so proud of both these elements of myself. However, what it does do is make me a little confused about who I am as a person. Because to me, I am still an indecisive 19-year-old university student that is just trying to figure out her place in this fast-paced, ever-changing 21st century world that is so hell-bent on building itself up in some places and tearing itself down in others. I factually know what it is like to live in Dubai, and I factually know what it means to be Indian. All I'm asking is where these two places meet to make me. All I'm asking is what makes me, me. And all I've figured out so far is that I. The ninth letter in the English alphabet, but the first one they teach you to write in primary school, purely due to its simplicity, the idea that we can draw a line and thrust upon it the responsibility of being a letter, a word, a sentence, a beginning, paving a way to an inevitable end, a burden that even I, a semi-functioning human body, cannot bear because the weight of this letter has deemed too much of a pressure for my lopsided shoulders to bear because I is a sense of control. I is the acceptance of truly capturing an understanding of my essence, but my conscience, she, a far better entity than me who holds far too much weight in the scales of my psyche and therefore forbids me. Chokes my vocal cords, clenches my tongue with fists too small to be noticed but too large to be ignored from speaking the holy name of I because they told me it is a crime to utter syllables you do not understand. I live in the space between footsteps. That monotonous, minuscule moment in time where the left foot is yet to proceed the right, that deafening silence is my home. But sometimes the noise gets too loud, and not because silence is the loudest sound, but rather that space between two footsteps acts as a stage, holds a mic to the rusted wheels of my time bomb thoughts. They told me that time bombs have two red wires, one that causes instant detonation, The other that stops the clock offers a taste of freedom where all hope is lost. What must I cut? When all the wires of my time bomb thoughts exhibit shades of red, I am a soul. Never has there been substantial proof of the soul's existence, but they promised me it exists because for the existence of thoughts and ideas and dreams, there must be a soul. I have thoughts, I have ideas, I have dreams, but must never be seen, only believed, because souls are never seen, only believed, but they raised me. Drilled into the edges of my psyche, the phenomenon that seeing is believing. So I must never be seen, only believed, yet seeing is believing, and so I am stuck. Which leads me to accept that I am my heart, trapped behind cages of ribs, forever beating and fighting for the survival of tattered skin and unremarkable bones that belong to a body that never felt like mine, because I am a woman. And they told me I must be caged, let them clip my wings before somebody else does it to me. But they always seem to forget that I am a star, a celestial being you have to look at through half-shut eyes, for I shine too bright. But they educated me, told me that according to science's decree, the only reason that stars shine in the night sky is because for the past millennium, they have been dead inside. So, in case my transition was a little too clever, that was at least my attempt at spoken word poetry. Essentially, spoken word poetry is performance-based poetry, but to me, it is a world beyond that. It allows me to tell you what I think and believe in without actually having to say it. You understand what I mean when I say I live in the space between footsteps without me actually telling you. There is so much emotion inside of us that sometimes words does not exist, but poetry does. And poetry allows you to express your emotions in an art form that little else does. Art is my bridge between the two worlds that I belong to. In October of 2016, I was dragged, physically, to my first ever open mic, and my life has never been the same since. Here was this space that celebrated words and emotions in little 3-minute bite-sized pieces that filled holes in my stomach that I didn't even know existed. Not only had I gotten closer into understanding myself, but it also opened me up into a world of opportunity, culture, and people that I wouldn't have been able to access without it. It is part of the reason I got into university. My interviewers asked me to perform for them on the spot, and it is certainly the reason that I am a TEDx speaker today. Through art, and especially spoken word poetry, I was able to explore myself in a way that I had never experienced before. When I was young, well, younger, I realized that my parents pronounced certain English words in a different way than I did. Of course, like all immigrant children, I did my best to correct them so that they wouldn't embarrass me with their broken English. However, there was a part of me that realized that their broken English did not stem from lacking something inside of them. It was because they had something more that I didn't. They had their mother tongue dancing on their lips far before English tried to make a home there. Many of us treat English as our first language. We read, write, talk, and even think in English. We may know our mother tongue, but English has always been the language that we communicated the best in. Sometimes we may even be celebrated for knowing English, even if that means we don't know our mother tongue. Whether it is because of the history of independence in our country, or simply because we live in an English-speaking country, there is this part of our heritage that we just can't seem to access. This isn't to say that I don't love English. Certainly I do. Without it, I wouldn't be able to do the things, see the places, and meet the people I have been able to. But I can't help but think that there's something missing. The next piece that I'm going to do talks about this very feeling. Accompanying me is a video that was made by my sister. This is just to showcase that art truly does transcend borders and allows us to answer questions that we could never find the answer to. This is Tongue Twisters. I wake up to the graveyard dirt sleeping in between my fingernails, resting from the night's relentless digging through headlines of silent, screaming genocides that speak languages that imitate my tongue. I, a product of intellectual genocide, my neighbor whose great-grandmother had to smuggle her through physical genocide. The only poetry she speaks is the color of her mother's eyes, but she's forgotten the word for them in her mother tongue. Tracing this intrusive language to draw those eyes, but just not close enough. We all share the same scars. Our injuries imitating each other with the fluency of a long-lost intruder who I have become closer to than my own ancestors, whose blood runs through my veins but in a vastly different pattern, whose name tastes different on my tongue, and my name an unwelcome guest dragging mud onto their floors even though it emerged from the seeds planted by their hands. It is almost as though the world is too full, but there is nothing for me to grasp at. Every foreign word, a meal I am yet to finish, my stomach too full from the claims of inadequacy for rolling my tongue in syllables that do not match the masses. Inadequate for wishing that I sounded more like my grandmother, whose vocal cords hold history in each cell of which I want to worship the holy ground of, but do not have the words to do so. I've seen worlds collapse each time I open my mouth and breathe out words that are begging at the tip of my tongue, but are too scared to take the leap and be chastised for daring to speak, and it's scary to think that worlds have been formed with this very tongue I preach. But at the price of worlds, I have ruined the chance to see. If you already haven't, I hope that one day you find your art and are able to find answers to questions that you haven't been able to figure out yet. Thank you.